let's talk about transfer case adapters. This is a 6L80 transmission. It was originally a four-wheel drive. Now, I showed earlier how you had to put a seal. Let me see if I have a 6L80 over here. This is a new 6L80 four-wheel drive transmission, and let's look at the seals here. You can tell this is an original four-wheel drive because this has got a short shaft on it. It's got a freeze plug here and one down here. If you get a two-wheel drive transmission, these plugs will not be there, so make sure you put those in. In addition, this seal will not be here, so you need to buy a four-wheel drive seal and put it in. This shaft will have to be cut off because a two-wheel drive shaft is much longer. So let's go back and look at the transfer case adapters. So being a four-wheel drive, this transmission needs no work other than bolting on this adapter. And let's look at the transmission mount, an original GM four-wheel drive mount. You can tell it's a four-wheel drive mount because it has two studs coming out the bottom. And you'll notice that our mount is slotted for side-to-side movement on this mount. We don't like using those rubber biscuits or polyurethane mounts. This is an OE-GM mount. Now, we do supply you with these 1-inch spacers to bring the transmission mount down. And this is a full-size adapter. What that means is this adapter is the same width as a GM adapter. The difference is in the clocking. The GM and Chrysler transfer cases are clocked differently. So you have two positions here to clock the transfer case, but they'll come out just perfect if you use the top hole most of the time. There are situations if you're running an Atlas or a 241C, you're not going to be using this adapter. But for the 241J, this transfer case adapter works perfect. You'll notice that the output shaft is just about flush with the back of this transfer case adapter. It sticks out just a little bit, maybe 1/8 of an inch. So if you have a two-wheel drive transmission and you want to use this adapter, you're going to want to install this adapter and then cut the shaft off to that length. Clean up the end, bevel a little bit so that the input gear goes over it. And you'll notice that this is a pretty large output shaft and they don't break. So the input gear in the 241J we're going to supply you with is going to fit right over that. So we run this adapter on all the 4 doors and some of the 2 doors. Now if you have a 2-door that has suspension mods and you want the shortest adapter possible, we can supply you with this adapter. You will notice that this adapter is shorter than that adapter by 3/4 of an inch maybe, and that will give you a little bit more drive shaft length. But on top of that, you have more clocking positions if you're going to run an oddball transfer case, and you have more mounting options. Now, I like this setup. It's simple. You have a mounting pad with a spacer and the original mount. Very strong, very simple. If you're running a 4L65, excuse me, a 4L80, or some other combination, you may want to move this transmission mount back or forth. So here's our adapter plate that goes to the original GM mount and fits onto this adapter. Now it can be mounted this way, it can be mounted here, you can flip it around and mount it here, you can mount it here. So it's got a lot of versatility to it. You are running a couple of studs through this, so I don't believe it's as strong as this one, but we haven't seen one break yet. It does go to the full-size pattern of the GM mount, so you don't have to use a rubber biscuit. But in a pinch, if you got a 2-door and you need the longest drive shaft possible, or you need more clocking options, we can supply you with this adapter. If you get a two-wheel drive transmission, bolt this adapter on, cut the output shaft off so that it's just a little bit past flush with the rear of the adapter. This adapter is a dry adapter, so you got to make sure you put the seal inside the back of the transmission and the 2 freeze plugs. Don't forget that, or you're going to have transmission fluid leaking out. The transfer case is also sealed. I always recommend you put a new front seal in. Get it from the dealership. It's a good quality seal, and this adapter will remain dry. So those are pretty much your options for the transfer case. We use the same transmission mount for virtually all of our swaps, including the 12s. You notice that there's some extra holes here, and that's to support the 12 cross members. The 12 and up cross members they come out and then go across, so we don't run this bottom plate because they virtually support it right up to the transmission mount, and this one plate will fit the 12s and the earlier JKs. And then of course run the support mount. Some guys don't like to have these bolts hanging down, so if you want, you can weld this to the cross member and this top plate also, and fix it with weld rather than bolt it on. It's really up to you. If you choose to weld it on and get rid of the hardware, that works just fine also. We've never had an issue either way. So that's pretty much it on the transfer case adapters.